Hello and welcome. Welcome to Opkey's breakdown of Oracle's 24B release. Thank you so much for joining. If you are jumping on the recording, hello. If you're coming on live, welcome. We are going to give everyone a couple minutes to settle in before we start a few housekeeping things. If you have questions, please pop them in the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. There will also be a time for questions at the end. If you have questions that are very specific to your environment or to your processes, please don't hesitate to reach out to sales@opkey.com or check out www.opkey.com to request a demo so we can speak to you personally. We are so excited to bring you this information. Dimpy has extensive experience with quarterly patch updates for Oracle with optimizing testing using our AI-enabled no-code platform called Opkey One. And today we're going to be going over both the changes that are coming in 24B and also the best ways you can test to be able to cut down your window from weeks to down to only 3 days, which is what we specialize in. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Dimpy.
Thank you, Isabel, and thank you so much, everyone, for making the time today. It's very important for us as an organization. I think any change in the organizational operating model, which is slated on the ERP applications, is critical because you need to know what's coming up, how it's going to affect your business processes, how your operations is going to get affected, and what are the changes that are coming, and you're aware about those changes ahead of time across different modules and different areas of your organization, right? So we try to apprise our customers and prospects and people just from an education perspective who want to be aware of these changes ahead of time so they can make informed decisions, they can make better test suites, they can do better validation cycles, and just make sure that their production is risk free. So that's the intent. With that, 24B is scheduled and almost no change in any kind of a schedule at this point. Cadence 1 soak starts Jan, Cadence 2 soak starts Feb through November, Cadence 3 starts March through December. So if you are in any of these cycles, and especially I think if you are in Cadence 2, it's coming up in May. For Cadence 1, we have already released an advisory from Opkey that gives an information of detailed information down to the level of the transactions of what's going to come up as part of any business process, any transaction, any scenario that you would be working and making sure that's part of your operations. So that is released and you'll get a copy as part of this webinar as well. All right, so I think let's go straight into this. We're going to talk about what are the changes that came up in ERP, what are the changes that came up in HCM, what are the changes that came up in supply chain modules, what should be your best practices to make sure that all of these changes are assessed before the patch. All of these changes are part of your test scenarios. Any enhancements are part of your test suite before you actually go ahead and test your pre-prod environment. So what came in ERP financials? So some of these are, and all of these changes, especially in 24B, are directly going to impact to the operations and the key business processes. And this was informed even earlier as part of Opkey and all the webinars that we do. 23D, we informed about 24 series is going to be very critical for Oracle because there are Redwood changes that are coming up, there are screen changes that are coming up, there are configurations getting customizations being introduced as part of Oracle Cloud Patch Early updates. Enhancements have extended to another level. Gen AI is biggest during this release cycle. So there are many changes. And by the time 24 series ends and 25 series comes in, which is 25A and 25B, you're going to see this is an absolute change of the platform that you used to see in 23 series and now. So any enhancement, the recommendation would be to keep on opting for these enhancements every single update. So your always up to date, your transactions are up to date. Otherwise, just keeping up to all of these changes is going to become very, very difficult. Um, Coming back to ERP financials and what changed, prepayment invoice as part of auto invoice FBDI process was not part of the FBDI process earlier, is now included in this. So it's a huge change. A lot of major and multiple transactions that used to get created, which were part of prepayment invoices earlier, were pretty much a manual process. So now that's a automated process. So big change. Unclaimed checks, we there was no way that you could present it for clearing directly. You could now go into manage payments and select a drop down, initiate S sheet and S sheet, and that's going to take care of anything that requires clearing during a specific time period. Key additional fields. So all these fields marked here, all these four fields that are coming up as part of one-time payment in FBDI is included. These are additional fields for doing one-time payment only. So it specifically talks to the healthcare sector, where all of these insurance payments are slated to be done one time, right? So that's, and for that, since there are like huge transactions, multiple transactions in one go, so we use FBDI. Earlier there was that particular transaction was not available, and now they are available with these key fields that are going to enable the one time payment. Again, very important, a critical change. And as part of, and every change that I'm talking through, we need to just make sure that as part of our validation process and our test suites, these are constantly included and updated. For HCM, and also a disclaimer, all the changes that are part of HCM have redwood screens. So if we talk about absence management, earlier when we used to apply for absence management, there was no option to select what kind of absence it is. If it is a absence on the first half, second half, half day, full day. So a bifurcation on all of those changes are now available as part of absence changes under new absences. Employees can now see their absence plan. They could also see their absence plan balances earlier as well, but they had to go to the absence plan management to kind of take a look at that. But while making those time card changes, they could see the balances upfront. New change, important change for the business users, and an important change to markup as part of the validation process as well. Employees can now add changes to their goal plan directly. So there's an option of addition, and they can add and edit any goals, any performances that they have not yet submitted. As part of Redwood, again, the configuration of a standard attribute only related to document type is now available, where you can update the document name, number, from date. All of these details are now editable. A note here, anything, or if you're using technologies to automate, and if you're using technologies that where label changes is not that easy, it is going to cause difficulty, because as part of Redwood, there will be multiple places where attributes, modifications, and customizations are going to get included more and more. So you want to make sure that the platform is easy and accommodative enough to kind of make any changes as part of your label, text, the fields that require retrofitment, and analysis of the fields upfront by an automated platform that would just scan the screen and give you more stable tests just by looking the change in the labels. So that is going to be critical. Supply chain, not too many changes in supply chain, but yeah, two critical changes. Supplier contacts can now be directly added as part of the parties tab under procurement contract. You can now cancel any kind of inventory movement from one warehouse to another. If it is in the approval process and you want to make the cancellation, you can select cancel movement request and make that cancellation. So these were more critical changes across the financials, human capital, and the supply chain. And some of it, especially the HCM, entirely is the Redwood screens and Redwood changes. as I said earlier, advisory document is already released from Opkey. As part of this webinar recording, you're going to get a copy of the advisory document, which points out and details the changes for across all the business processes, all the transactions, all the tabs, all the screens, anything which is important for your key business processes and your day-to-day transactions and the operations of your ERP applications. It will be part of the advisory document. So do have a look at that.
Dimpy, we have a quick question.
Mhm.
And he asks, is cadence the same as cohort from Oracle SaaS? Cohort A is, for example, May 24, question mark.
That is correct. That is correct. And that is essentially, I mean, some call it cohort A and the previous one only as SOAK. Some call it cohort 1, 2, 3. So it depends on that. Essentially, like the most generic industry call out is cohort B, which is cohort 2, which is the Feb May cycle that you're referring to. Yes, first Friday of May is 24B is slated to release on your testing environment. 2 weeks later, that goes onto the production environment. Hope that helps. Coming back to this, the best practices for testing the patch in general, can't stress enough, preparation of a good test environment is critical. It's essential. It's very, very critical. If you're doing manual testing, if you're doing automated testing, you want to make sure that the refresh has happened. You're on top of the schedule of your refresh. Your testing environment is ready. It has all the accesses in place. The security roles is a big blocker. Most often than not, we kind of realize on a Monday after the patch there are no accesses in place, everything is refreshed, you don't know where to start from your patch testing, and it's critical, right? Your first week, first day, and you want to complete everything in the first week before you hit and accommodate all the changes as part of your enhancements. So making sure that all the accesses and the security roles that you want to enable, which were part of your pre-production, where the refresh has happened, you want to make sure that the testing environment is aligned with that. With automation, we as Opkey make sure that the security roles and the entire baseline of the security is already in place. So we do a quick comparison and make sure that if there are any changes on the new environment, say there are no changes, we will set up all the security roles by itself. So this is like a 30-minute task, and all the security roles and users are immediately as is the way it was previously. So the preparation is immediately done. If there is a change in the security roles and users and their accesses, we do a comparison, and that change directly happens on the on the testing environments. In a nutshell, all your security access and users are immediately in place. Then we do a quick sanity. The next one is um, making sure that your business users are available and things like that. So if you're really going after the manual testing, and if you want to make sure that the issue logs related to Oracle and the folks who are really really critical for debugging those concerns and making sure that the right issues go to the Oracle teams and to the configuration and the implementation specialist team are already in line with who's going to do what and their parts and who's aligned with which module and which testing suite. So that's critical. Assessing what ERs to implement. So ahead of time, Oracle projects all the release notes. It also gives you a list of enhancements that will be part of your opt-in and part of your forced updates that are going to come to your testing environment and later in your production environment directly. So against all of those ERs, you want to make sure that which ones you can defer and which ones you cannot. If you're not able to defer some of those enhancement requests, you want to make sure that those test scenarios and test scripts are already part of your regression suite. If you're able to defer and as an organization you choose to defer, then you want to put them as part of your backlog and into the right cohort and when you want to implement those ERs. So this is again important. Developing the security users rules, we just spoke about it, again very important. You also want to make sure that you run a quick sanity against those user accesses and the key business processes just to make sure that everything is in place. most often than not, when you run the key business processes and the accesses are not in line, you would immediately know it. So in like 10, 20 test script execution in like 50, 20 minutes. If you're not doing that smoke insanity, what you're essentially doing is you're running a 20-hour job and then getting to know of those issues. So this is again important. The inbound and outbound transactions. So if you're doing manual testing, these, what are the API integrations? What are my application integrations? What are my business process integrations? What are my data integrations? Who is the key personnel who is going to be responsible for that inbound and outbound integration? That person needs to be aware of those integration tests. If you're doing automated testing, again, all the changes, the advisory need to be looked at like very, very keenly. What are the API changes that have been done? What are the changes that have been deferred? What are the changes that have been um, taken off? If there are any new integrations that have come up, if there are any data integrations that you need to make sure that's done as part of this patch cycle. So that's either appended to the existing test script or test scenario, or or data and API modified. Updating the checklist, again, the priority and the smoke and sanity test suite is very critical, not only for security user and the accesses, but also for the key business process testing. So right after you have done the security validation and the access validation, and that's in place, the next test suite to execute is the priority or the smoke test suite, which will immediately going to ensure that all your key operations and your key business processes are working fine. So that health check can be done on like day zero, right on the weekend of the patch, first day, first hour. And that can be out to the key IT team and the business team. So they can be assured that all of their key business processes are working on, and on Monday, they are not like open to and their machines for surprises. Once that is done, you do in parallel, there is an impact assessment that's run between the previous patch and the new patch to give a quick comparative analysis of what has changed, what it means for the QA teams, what are the test scripts that are affected, how do you make those changes directly, and if those changes are directly part of your testing or not. Have we planned for a risk-based testing or not? So again, whether you're doing a manual one-to-one comparison or an automated change impact assessment on day one is critical. We did speak about preparing your environment. This is important, and just making sure that all the steps that are part of scheduling of your P2T, notification of your P2T, completion of your P2T, confirmation of your test plan, the confirmation across the test environment is very, very critical, even before the validation of accesses and everything comes into place. This is a refresh process. This is a process that the environment that is going to take the entire update testing is prepared, and prepared well in advance. Planning and predetermining update impact is important. As much as the change impact analysis on day one is important, just planning ahead is also very critical. And that's the reason we stress a lot on advisories. We stress a lot on identifying to the T level of transactions that are going to get affected, understanding the ERs that are coming up in this particular patch. What has our the Oracle thought about this particular patch? What are the screens that are going to get affected? What are the changes that I'm going to get exposed to? What are the security validations that I need to make sure that is done in this particular patch? Even if it is not update, sometimes we club all of our testing as part of the update and then shove it all into this new quarter. Talking to the implementation team, talking to the IT team, if there are any new roles that have been added, any new custom roles that have been added, and you want to make sure that it's part of the security validation, any new configurations that have been done that you want those testing to be prioritized, any new integrations have been created that you want those integration test suites to be prioritized. So just planning ahead of time and making sure that your regression suite is just not a plain simple dissimilar regression suite that's being executed for like quarters and quarters. Similar one, it's not going to give you any any optimal result. It's just going to give you something which is not even part of this particular update. So something which is more connected, and more at the center of the update and the changes, it's going to give you the real impact and real assessment.
Dimpy, we have a quick question. Sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
Speaking about integrations, are those within SaaS or PaaS OICS?
Yes, SaaS, PaaS, and API related integrations, application related integrations, data related integrations, business process related integrations, any kind of integration need to be part of your integration test suite. SaaS and PaaS being the most important one at this point. Within Oracle, most of the folks are kind of creating all of most of their integrations as part of OIC. But I would say that's not only the one. There are other PaaS applications also that get integrated. There are inbound and outbound applications, even with the third party applications that also get integrated. Database gets integrated, reporting platforms get integrated. So the stress was essentially on any kind of integration tests that are part of your application interface and boundary systems.
Wonderful. Thank you. One more question here. Will the patch release document contain information of what changed from the previous patch?
That's correct. That's correct. From the previous patch, even if you have made any changes during that quarter, and that change was part of your instance, however, it was not part of your previous instance, it is going to capture that as well. So any change, it doesn't matter if it was only Oracle Cloud related update, even if it is related an update that's made by one of your implementation specialists, that is also going to get captured. So I would say taking this as just an opportunity of testing anything that we have changed in the last quarter is important.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and then how Opkey can help, I think Opkey, as Opkey and as platform and as being a test automation platform at the center of Oracle, helping customers with Oracle test automation so much, we just hold the responsibility of telling our customers a process that has worked for tens of customers quarter and quarter, and they have achieved a significant amount of results. We just want our prospects and just the folks who have come for some understanding, some education, and we can spread this information that we have captured from our experience. That would be really, I think, the intent. So this is a process that we have seen that works and gives us maximum amount of result. Having a pre-update advice that highlights the changes, so we know the sections that are important. These are the modules that are important, these are the sub modules that are important, these are my key processes that are important and that are more prone to change in this particular update. So putting them out, those test suites need to be out and separated, and those should be first in your job when that executes, even before you have done the change assessment. Taking the right baselines. Not every baseline is important, but just a baseline of your key processes and your modules, important, very important. Doing a baseline of your security role validation is very critical. So taking these baselines even before the patch is applied is important, and that should be stored in some form or the other. If you're using a manual way, it should be captured. If you're using an automated way, it should be captured and stored. Day one impact analysis. Once you have stored these baselines, you will be able to take another snapshot and then do a comparison between the baseline and the new one to give you a clean assessment of what has modified. So that impact analysis is important. And then immediately creating a risk-based cycle is important on day one, which has given you two things. One, you know the changes. Second, you have done a risk-based assessment. So you're not just going haywire across 1000 places and 1000 modules and don't know what to test. You immediately exactly know what to test, and you have directly hit that, and you have got a feedback immediately on day one. Then obviously the entire regression suite can follow across all modules, the end-to-end tests can follow, the integration tests can follow, everything else can follow. Making sure and targeting the certification that happens in 3 business days. As Opkey, it has given us like more fruitful and more um, enhanced results on the overall patch updates is because when you have achieved one round of test cycle with 3 business days, you're left with ample amount of time to make sure all your ERs are incorporated, new test suite is created. If there are SRs that you want to do back and forth with Oracle, you can do that. So you have good 5 7 days with you so you can actually make those communications. Otherwise, it's just wishful thinking that nothing would break on production. Data preparation historically has been one of the biggest problems in testing. After what to test and what's the coverage has been test data prep. If there are changes in the configurations, which means all my data is modified, you don't have a way to make those data changes into your test scripts or into your even manual test scenarios. You're making those changes with like a human person doing actually those changes into 1,000 test scripts, or even like a couple of hundred test scripts is impossible in 2 weeks time, or you'll have to put tens of folks to kind of get this done. Again, not optimal, plus it's prone to a lot of human errors. Test coverage again is very very important. We can't stress enough your plain bland test regression suite quarter on quarter is not going to give you a result that you would be expecting. These updates are making a lot of changes, and some of these changes actually get um, into system and into your notice when these configurations mix with your the set of changes and the data that your organization uses. Then you actually get that bug and issue. Most of the time, most of the Oracle SRs are ones that, not that they have not done the testing even before, they come up when this merger happens, especially in HCM. It was working fine even before. Oracle is not able to replicate, but when it's merged with your configurations and your data specific to your organization, these bugs come up. So that need to be highlighted, and that can only get highlighted if you have done a configuration analysis. Security and role validation results, super critical. If you have security roles that have accesses and privileges, every patch, those privileges are affected. These are roles and these are data security policies that get added to your privileges, which means that your role with the privilege that was there before the patch is not the same after the patch. So that comparison and that analysis need to be in front of the IT team, in front of the business users and the owners, so they can take the right call at the right time. Opkey helps and does and creates all of those things that I've mentioned. All of those things are automated assessments and automated security reports and the automated configuration analysis for the right coverage. All of this is part of our platform. In one click, you can get that information and you can make sure that your certification is done in 3 days. On top of it, we keep on continuously updating our accelerated library, whether it is Redwood, whether it is new modules, whether it is new integrations. We've also started in and are pretty much on a verge of more than 70% creating our own integration accelerator that is that creates your service repositories and most of your APIs and the business process application integrations upfront. So those accelerators just speed up the entire process of these test scripts and the new test scripts that need to be created as part of your ERs. So within the patch cycle, you have actually accommodated all of those, your ERs and the new tests into your regression suites as well.
We have a quick question. Prasad asks, are there any reporting changes for the 24B release, OTBI and BIP, or tables and subject areas?
There are changes, were not very critical, and that's the reason I think that didn't make it to the deck. But do take a look at the advisories, and more detailed reporting related changes and OTBI related changes would definitely be part of it if there are. And talking about what matters most to us, business, and what it means to our business, right? So I think even outside of value, the biggest benefit that we see with our customers is they value risk. They value anything that can give them an assurance of their production is going to be risk free. Whatever it takes, whatever we need to do should be part of the platform or should be part of their validation strategy to make sure that the production is risk free, because that's their brand on stake, that's their operations on stake, that's their organization's downtime on stake. And that's like that's not even, that's beyond dollars that we are talking about. So just making sure that the coverage is at the right coverage, and the data is taken care of, and you have a right assessment in place before you actually move to production, and you have everything informed. Even if there are issues, those are logged, and those are informed issues across the business teams and across the business owners. That's one of the biggest benefit that we kind of give as part of our platform, and we continuously strive for that. So our customers are increasing their test coverage over and over by 70%, 80% every single time. Their defect leakage is less than 90%. Their efficiency on their processes, only because they're able to assess those gaps ahead of time. They're able to generate more and more test scenarios, more fruitful test scenarios that are related to their configurations, and are able to update their regression suites on time. That's one of the biggest benefit that we provide to our customers. With
Wonderful. We have
this,
more question, or do you want to wait until after the demo?
no, that's fine. We can take the question.
This may be a novice question. During patch release, will the clients take a backup of data so that the test data is retained and copied back onto the new patch?
They do. Some of the customers do a refresh and update together, so their data stays in their environment. Some of the customers create their data and import the data later on. So yes, they do opt for the exporting and importing. Some of the customers mask their data, so no data is changed. They just do data masking. So to each his own, and they take their calls based on their organization's practice. And I think from a testing and validation platform, we can tell you that all of these scenarios are part of our strategy. With this team, this is the platform, and this is where all of the action happens. So if you see, most of the tabs here are related to the testing. So one of the key tabs here is discovery. A discovery snapshot allows users to create a snapshot. They can select the environment. They can select a discovery snapshot. So this is process mining enabled solution. And what it helps the customer do is select the process of their own based on the module that they select, give a duration, and then based on that duration, whatever configuration changes that have happened, that will be part of the configuration analysis. So Opkey is going to analyze those configurations. Opkey is going to analyze those processes that you have been doing, and then give you an analysis of the configurations. If you see my screen, and on the right tab, all the configurations are part of Opkey's analysis. What were the BUs? What were the supply sites? What were the payment terms? What were the document details? What were the ledger details? All of these changes, all of these configurations are part of our analysis, which means that any change, if there is a DFF that has been added, based on that DFF, the test scenarios are modified, your test suggestions are modified. So if you see the panel on the left, all the processes that you have been doing during that duration are immediately part of our mine use cases. All of the processes that you are not testing at this point but are part of your configurations right here become part of your suggested use cases. So this is a gap analysis. Once this analysis is done, your regression suite is more comprehensive. It's more accommodative of the changes that have happened in this patch. Once that is done, biggest problem again, what is going to be my data? My data is directly created by linking and the algorithms that work behind the mine transactions that you're doing on a regular basis, plus the configurations. Together, they create these linked and relevant test data sets across your business units that you can select, across your per group limit that you can select, and generate that test data that directly goes into the test scripts that you can start your test execution with. So this is an end-to-end use case of the identifying the changes, having those changes and test scenarios part of your regression suite, and then immediately making sure that those are part of your test automation regression suites for patch cycles as well. How do you do it? You can just select the test scenarios here, automate the test. Once you automate the test, these libraries are going to get connected to the pre-built test accelerator libraries, and an automated test case is going to get created. Once you automate all of these tests together, you can navigate to the test suite directly. Your data sheet is already in place. The data on the data sheet is already in place, and you can put them out for execution directly. And the other critical part is making sure that the assessment is in place. You're aware what are the changes that have been done in your existing test suites that you have been running all through the quarter, in your multiple test cycles, and what that means. So an impact report here is a comparison of these two snapshots, a baseline and the new snapshot that you have generated after the patch on day one. Again, what it means is, based on these changes that have come up, some of these changes across these different tabs, your data type has been changed, mandatory information and non-mandatory information is changed, screens have different fields, some come on left panel, right panel, any kind of change which is making your transactions not similar to what it was earlier, or there's a business workflow that has been modified, it is captured. And for your QA team, you're immediately informed that these are the 10, 20, X number of test scripts that are affected. You can then select and create your own test suite. You can create your risk-based test suite and then put them out for execution. Before you do it, you need to make sure that all of your tests are healed. So once you select self-heal, Opkey is going to tell you what are the components that were changed. You select those components and heal. Those changes are directly going to get affected into your business components and your business libraries. With this, I think we can take more questions.
All right, we have a question. Can you explain the impact analysis function a little more? Does it scan automatically for all impact or only specifically what you're testing?
It assesses specifically the tests that you have run across the transactions in the previous batch. So the impact analysis is not going to give you an analysis of something that you have not tested historically. For that, the configuration analysis is going to help uncover those test scenarios. But the impact analysis, yes, it's going to uncover the changes and give you a comparative study of something that you have tested as part of your historic transactions.
Wonderful. Does Opkey support multiple languages?
Yes, Opkey is working on multilingual, test scenario changes and test validation across those language support as well. At this point, it is English, but we are working on incorporating more and more language support as well. Some of the geographies, I think we might have to connect separately, but some of the geographies are already in place. There's a prospect that we are working on with the language support and that kind of use case.
Wonderful. Can you speak a little about the transition from Jira to test automation? Does it take a long time to make the switch?
No, I think you don't have to make that switch. Opkey has a direct integration with Jira. So you can have that integration in place and then come to Opkey and all of your integrations will be as is. If you, however, wish to move to another integration platform and say Opkey's own QLM, we'd love to have you on the platform. But any other test management platform like Zephyr or QLM, HP QLM, or Jira, all of these more popular platforms are already part of our ongoing integrations.
Wonderful. That is all the questions we have time for today. All right, we can do one more. Is Opkey codeless, meaning automation script can be edited to change logic, writing if and else, etc.?
100% codeless, but There's no restriction to any kind of logic and all of that. In the platform, you can create your own custom FLs. You can put all the logics as part of your test libraries, and everything is part of the entire platform. So this is a end-to-end no-code test automation platform that you can leverage for your testing, custom code creation, and more.
Wonderful. That is all we have time for today. Dimpy, thank you so much for bringing your expertise. Thank you all for your questions. I really encourage you to reach out to the email address on the screen or go to www.opkey.com and we can get you information even more specifically dovetailed to your needs and your testing environment. So thank you guys, and we'll see you again.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.